Just 19 years of age, Bukayo Saka missed the defining penalty in last night's Euros final against Italy, and a wave of online abuse followed. Gareth Southgate described the racist tweets as unforgivable, with the Prime Minister also condemning the comments. But that isn't enough, according to former England defender Gary Neville, who urged Boris Johnson to have a tougher stance on racism. So what more can be done, and how do the players come back from this? Joining me now is Kevin George, former footballer and clinical lead at Psychology, an organisation that provides psychological clinical support to footballers. Kevin, thanks very much for being with us. Harry Kane tweeted a short time ago that this really hurts and it's going to hurt for a long time. None more so, though, than for those three players who missed the penalties last night, Rashford, Saka and Sancho, and so young. How do they deal with the pressure and the disappointment and the responsibility on their shoulders?
For young players, when they come through, I think sometimes, especially the players in the England team, they have quite a smooth journey to making it into that level. And then when we come to a stage like this where it becomes a really rough journey, for some of them, it's probably their biggest knockback. In terms of how they come back from it, it depends on their character, but also the level of support they have. And I would say probably focusing on Saka, because he missed the last penalty and he's getting more attention because of that and his age. I think if we look at, if the England backroom staff, in terms of the psychologists, the coaches, and also the players, get around him, but also the Arsenal staff and his family, as a person, I think he'll be okay. As a player, it becomes quite tough, and I think this is where it becomes quite complex. But he has the best manager in terms of the person being able to empathise with him, as in Gareth Southgate, because obviously he missed his penalty in '96. I really hope that Southgate is in touch with him throughout the season, to be honest, because people, and even more so players, they repress really well. And I hope that he doesn't get through coping, and I really hope he progresses past it and uses it to build resilience moving forward.
Yeah, as you say, no one knows more how this is feeling right now than Gareth Southgate. His was a 25-year quest for redemption. But we also saw not only Gareth Southgate hugging Bukayo Saka last night, but the other team members gathering around him to support him. They are a very close-knit, tight team, aren't they? Gareth Southgate has brought a club mentality to the national team. Yeah,
they're very, very tight. The sad thing, though, is that they are tight and they're supporting him, but everyone will move on. I think for Bukayo Saka, the problem that he will have is that now moving forward, the difference between him and Southgate was a defender. Saka's younger and he's also an attacking player. So there's a level of creative bravery needed to really flourish at that level. And when you come across something like this, it can affect how you take risk moving forward. So he's got that support now, but there's going to be a time when he is going to be alone. And I'm hoping that, that's why I mentioned before about Southgate continuing to support him, the clinicians at Arsenal supporting him, that he actually progresses through it. So he comes out of just coping, but actually progresses through it. Because what we want is, for Arsenal and England, is that he continues to take calculated risks without the burden of the memory of what happened at the Euros.
Was it too much to ask these young players to step up like that tonight, particularly in the case of Rashford and Sancho, only coming onto the pitch, barely getting a touch on the ball before having to take those penalties?
There's an old saying in football, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think ideally, you'd want your more experienced players to take it, but these boys have got loads of experience underneath their belt. And Mourinho said this the other day. They've played in Champions League finals, they're playing season after season in the Premier League. Saka's 19, but he has the experience of someone beyond his years, and he performs beyond his years. So, it's down to the manager. I don't know him personally. I don't know, the England players personally, but I don't really think it's to do with age, to be honest.
What of the racist abuse that those three players are now having to endure? There has been widespread condemnation of it. How do they block out that noise?
It's tough. The whole country said they are scared. As soon as the penalties were missed, they was afraid of what they will see on social media. So there's a problem already that we already know that. So I think that there's an issue that we're not dealing with in England in terms of racism, and we avoid. And unfortunately, we found ourselves in this vicious cycle of knowing there's a problem, creating awareness, but not progressing past awareness. So previously we've had T-shirts and banners. Now we've got the knees and badges. And I think you've got people who obviously are racist, who are annoyed when they see this stuff. You also have people who are not racist, but they use football as an escapism, and they don't want anything else to infiltrate that space. And then you've got people who are...
Hasn't it? I mean, we can't get away from it. It has. That's why we're talking about this today. And Gary Neville saying that in fact, you know, it's not just about the England team taking the knee. The leadership doesn't need to just come from Gareth Southgate. It needs to come right from the top, from the Prime Minister. I wonder what you think of that.
It does, but there has to come a time, where we say, OK, well, the Prime Minister is not doing his job properly. He's not doing it, and maybe he doesn't care. And this is where the people have to take action into their own hands. Prime example, Thierry Henry left social media because of it, and he left alone. That could have been a catalyst. If we want change, unfortunately, we have to be uncomfortable. And if that means closing your social media account, then so be it, or challenging people. But we can't wait for something and then start tweeting. So me personally, I've accepted that there are these issues that are going to come. I've accepted that the Prime Minister is not going to do anything about it. He's got his own history with regards to saying things that were inappropriate anyway. So I'm looking now towards football governing bodies, football players, broadcasters, and us putting the question to them now, OK, so we know this, what are you going to do?
OK, Kevin, George, thank you very much indeed for talking to us this afternoon here on Sky News.
Thank you. Bye-bye.